Hey guys, how is everybody today? Hope you had a great Wednesday. Starting to forget what day of the week it is. I hope you guys all had a great Wednesday. And getting into the charts here, let me just pull up real quick. We got some news happening going into Thursday, and I'll pull that up now so we can all just have a real quick peek at her. Um, Euro USD, we got German prelim numbers coming out, and then we've got final GDP numbers for the US dollar, and then we've got G20 meetings. They are starting up. G20 meetings, typically they don't do a lot in terms of volatility. From what I've noticed, you certainly, you may find otherwise, throughout the day, maybe you'll see some weird volatility happening, and that could technically be a cause for it. But these type of meetings here, it's just more so, after effects that typically, once they're all racked up, that where you see the effects. But unless something major news breaks from these things, they typically don't do a lot, in my opinion anyway. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen anything to show any evidence. But going into Friday, then we have current account for GDP, for pound sterling. And then we've got Euro USD medium impact news for Friday, and Canadian dollar GDP meeting minutes, and a whole bunch of other US dollar medium impact news for Friday to wrap up the week. So, and there is one major high impact news event for Canadian dollar right here as well too. So, pretty quiet day Thursday, and then Friday we'll probably see a little bit of volatility, obviously on the pound, and then Canadian dollar. That would be the main focus. Sorry, folks, my printer was just going off for some random reason. Just decided to print out of the blue for no reason at all. Creepy. Anyway, so like I say, in terms of news events, I don't believe that we're going to be too hard pressed tomorrow and should see any real major volatility except for this one right here. So keep in mind that this one is coming up at 8:30 a.m. New York time. So let's just jump over the charts real quick. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I want to try to wrap this up sooner rather than later, so we'll just dive into it right now. So US dollar, we've obviously had a retracement week. We had price slam down all last week, and then Monday, Tuesday, where are we here? Going into Thursday's trading. You can see here we've had Monday was pretty much a down day, and then Tuesday set the low of the week thus far, and Wednesday was on the US dollar really didn't do anything. We saw an inside day range, as you can see, didn't get lower than the body and didn't get higher than the wick. So inside trading day on Wednesday, and now Thursday we're already seeing it fire right out of the gate. It's pushing higher. Now, I think there's a good chance here that we're going to see them, if they really build some momentum, run up to the 9,600 level, and that basically just comes in these two equal lows right here. That's where I'm expecting them to run price up to. Hopefully, what I'm hoping they do is that they run it into there, and that they don't just fail right here. They certainly could, or just pop above the two previous day highs. I am expecting lower prices, but it looks like they decided to take their time doing this retracement. So if any of you guys have watched my my pre-recorded video from Sunday, you would have noticed that I mentioned that I'm expecting price this week to do a retracement higher on the US dollar, and then a further continuation lower, which is obviously why I have these two numbers laid out here. They're taking a lot longer to do it than what I had anticipated on. And they're electing to take 4 days to run it higher versus the 1 or 2 quick days that it should have done it in, and then a retracement lower. It is what it is. You can't always predict exactly what the market is going to do. All you can do is put the levels that you expect to see get tagged, and price will do what it does. So at the end of the day, the only thing I was incorrect on so far was the length of time it took to get up to these levels. But this is exactly what I was looking at it do. So I was basically just expecting this and then price to fall off abruptly from there. So because we're so late in the week, I'm expecting Thursday again to expand up higher, and then Friday I would hope would close lower. We could certainly stretch up into this range in here. I'd be looking for sensitivity at the 9600 level. It's a pretty major level. And if you look at 9600 right in here, you can see all the sensitivity at that level, where price has really spent a lot of time right in here, lots of price right in here. You know, we can see the wicks coming down and rejecting off of this level here. You know, days closing in here, here, and here. So 9600 definitely has a lot of sensitivity, and I would expect it to offer some form of resistance to the upside, and then we should see price fall over. If, however, you do see price expand higher than this low right here, I'm sorry, not the low, than this high right here on this candle from the 21st, this guy right here, then there's a good chance it could extend back up and try to reach back for the lows of this consolidation in here and in here, okay? So basically this red line. I wouldn't bet on that. I'm expecting sensitivity at 9600 and a further continuation lower, but keep in mind they could certainly drag it all the way up there. And then I'm again expecting Thursday to come back up, and then Friday I would expect some measure of a retracement. Now I'm looking for roughly, if we pull a weekly range, I would look for the week to at least finish off back down in this range somewhere down in here. So without getting too specific and calling exactly where the levels are, expect higher prices going into Thursday and lower prices going into Friday. That's sort of what I'm banking on. So we'll see how that pans out. But with that in mind, I do have a couple levels I want to talk about on Euro USD. One of them being pretty close to where we're at right now, 113.30 on the downside for Euro USD. Same idea as the US dollar. I do have 112.65 mapped out on here. If we do see any further continuation, same as what the US dollar is, if we see price move past these two lows here and extend up into here, then we can obviously target that and look for some downside potential on Euro USD to 112.65. Again, I'm hoping for, let me zoom in, I'm hoping for some sensitivity at these levels, and I'm actually got it dialed in on a 1 hour chart right in here. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of area of support right in this range, and so I'm hoping 113.30 will offer that downward support. But if we do get a fairly extended session, we could see it run past that and into this range here, and then again I'd be looking for 112.65 ish to get ran back to. I hope we don't see that though. Only because you can see the momentum. We're finally breaking free of this massive downward trend. You know, obviously you can see that here. Big downward trend. Broke through it, came back, retested, and expanding through. Doing a slight retracement now, and I'm hoping for something like this, obviously, to transpire. And I'm really looking for 114.60 on the upside. So if we can get a nice low in here, see where the low gets set on the week, then we can obviously pick our targets into next week. But that doesn't mean that we can't scalp a few pips between here and then. Current location would offer you up about 25 pips or so. But I'm going to wait for a bit of a retracement. I'd like to see them come back up into here a little bit, and maybe even try to take out these highs and just reject and then run down. That would be, in my opinion, a better trade. But you can see the day on Wednesday really didn't do anything. It was pretty much sideways, one brief expansion higher just to run those highs, and just briefly run above these three highs in here, and then reject it again. So pretty heavy on the downside, which is why I'm expecting we're going to see expansion to the downside. And my first target, and again, I'm just picking easy targets. I don't know what's going to happen when it gets into here. We could reject and run higher, you know, certainly an option. But I definitely think we're going to see another 25 pips to the downside for sure on Euro USD. So again, could be a pretty easy scalp for you. And what would negate that, again, is if we started to run above this high right in here. So that's a big stop, obviously. I wouldn't suggest a 35 pip stop or anything like that. That's why I'm going to elect to wait. And I could miss the trade, but I'd like to see them just come back and retrace back up just a little bit, just a few pips, maybe back up into this range in here. Let's say the 113.65 level, maybe about 10 pips higher. I'd like to see them go up and see if there's any willingness to go above these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal highs in here, and then reject and then run lower. That would, in my opinion, would be a much stronger setup. Sort of a turtle soup to the lower downside target of 113.30. Again, could expand lower, but I'm just going to set my sights on some easy targets for Thursday. Pound dollar, and then again, so as we move forward, I think that 114.60 on the upside is going to be next week's target. Very similar to what the US dollar is doing, but in reverse, obviously. And this is where I'm going to be setting my sights on for the completion of next week. And then as long as we see continuation to the downside on the US dollar, obviously we have our next targets above us to the upside where we can easily pick. So I'm hoping for sort of a little bit of a swing trade going into the next couple of weeks on this, and you know, panning out in some nice pips going into the summer here on it. Pound dollar, very similar. A little more sideways price action than what the Euros experienced. We just saw them run these highs, these old highs in here early in the week on Tuesday, setting the high, and now we're seeing that expansion to the downside. I'll just zoom in a little bit. I got a little bit of... 1 second, guys. So I think that we'll see... We've seen them take all the highs out in here. They ran the stops, rejected very strongly off of that Tuesday candle. Wednesday, again, pretty much a sideways day. I'll zoom in a little bit here. Sorry, not zoom in. I'll go down to 1 hour, and you can see that that day set on Wednesday really did nothing compared to the big rejection we have up here on Tuesday and the subsequent fall off. And I think we're going to see price on cable continue to slide. I've got some levels on here that I'm looking at basically at the 126.20 level. We're going to see them run these lows here fairly quickly, and I would expect them to probably run down, and I would expect them to continue running down. Excuse me. Downside target, I'm looking for 126.05. You know, 12600, 126.05, somewhere in that range. I'm looking for it to sweep this low and these lows right in here, and then see a rebalance and then a push back up. I don't want to really see it have to trade all the way back down into here. If it starts getting down into here, it makes me a little bit more concerned. I would, however, tolerate right back down to the 79% retracement level and basically banging off of these old highs in here. I would consider that as acceptable if we're going to still continue that bullish uptrend on this. And again, I mean, that's you know, 30 pips, whatever. My target would be down here. So similar to the Euro USD, I don't know what or if any retracement, but I sort of like a return back up right into this consolidation range in here. If we could get price just to reject from here, run up to here a bit, and then fall off, I think that would be an ideal entry. My first target, I would probably phase this out into a couple targets. I'd have my first target running right here. My second target would be right there, and I would be paying myself the third time right down here, just to make sure that we're capitalizing on this stretch down. That's a bit of a ways away. You know, we're 70 pips, 75 pips. If you get an entry up into here, you know, you'd be close to that 100 pip radius. And I think personally that that would be a great setup going into Thursday's trading. But keep in mind, the cable is the one that's experiencing the majority of the news for the week. Certainly anything's possible. I want to talk about Euro GBP here for a second. I see prices struggling, excuse me, struggling to get a whole lot higher and make real gains here after this run up in here, popped down, created 2 equal lows, and then we're running back up again. Price just ran above the high here. You can see the high on this candle came in. Would give me that. May not. Yeah. High comes in at 89.73. High on this candle comes in at 89.75. So by 2 pips it ran it. And I don't see any extension upwards yet. So here's the thing. if we're going to see a continuation onto the upside of Euro USD, we should see this continue to move. If not, then what's going to lead into it is continuation to the downside on cable. So if we see this pushing higher, then you could see cable pushing much lower. So it kind of leads me to believe that they're going to sort of chop it sideways for a little while and see possibly further continuation on the upside on Euro. That's my hope. In-term lows set obviously onto cable into here. So that's sort of what I'm looking at Euro GBP. I'd like to see if they could come and run down these lows here though before expanding higher. Ultimately, my long-term target, we've got these highs up in here that I'm looking forward to run up. You can see it's making a convincing push to the upside, so we'll see how that goes. There's also a couple areas, about 3 areas under there that I'd be looking at as well too, that to the downside, if price peters out up here, that we could get back down to. So we'll worry about that when the time comes, but just something interesting I saw that you guys might find interesting in Euro GBP. US CAD was a little bit different. So this is a bit of a different story. Obviously, you can see the weakness in US CAD versus US dollar. US dollar, we've had a nice little retracement coming in here the past 3 days, versus US CAD has basically been falling straight down. So it consolidated, pardon me, it consolidated a little bit here. Early in the week, and then finally had a nice expansion to the downside on Wednesday's trading. Now it looks like Thursday we're retracing a bit into here, but again, very similar. They just took out the lows here. I'm looking for this target on US CAD, 130.65 to the downside. I think we're going to, and we'll probably end up going lower. I've got my sight set more so down in here, and for the remainder of the month, well, which is fleeting fast, I should say early part of next month as well too, into July, but a little bit different. So this is what concerned me a little bit on today's trading. Let me show you something. So we had a sideways day on Wednesday, right here. You can see that we're pushing up nicely now, but we had a sideways day on Wednesday on US dollar, a sideways day on inside trading range day on Euro on Wednesday, almost a perfect doji on cable, although it did make a lower low from Tuesday's trading. And then US CAD had this big down day. I mean, not huge in the grand scheme of things, but 80 pips to the downside. So very interesting. I'm not sure why the added weakness is coming in here when the US dollar was going straight sideways. So I didn't get involved in this trade here, unfortunately. I do know some of our some guys in the chat room, some members got on a nice swing trade on this this run down here, which kudos to them. Great trade. And I'll be honest with you, Wednesday I was not expecting this to run like this with all the consolidation that we saw in the other pairs. So nonetheless, though, it doesn't change the overall outlook. I think we're going to see another. I think we're going to see well, the low on Wednesday came in at 131.06, so just failed this. Just failed to get down to the 13100 level. But I think they'll probably run it up here into Thursday. Again, tag off of these lows in here, and then we'll probably see that next final push to sweep this low and all these subsequent lows going into next week. So that's what I'm looking for on US CAD. UJ, and again, you know, UJ did something completely different as well too. And you look, and so this is what I was looking at. And between all the pairs, there wasn't a lot of symmetry and correlation to it. So you can see UJ is really trying to get higher in a big hurry here. I don't know what lit a fire under UJ's ass, but under the yen, but it is definitely experiencing some significant pushing to the upside here. Tuesday setting the low, Wednesday straight up, Thursday we're looking like we're straight up. I'm expecting some sort of a break in this uptrend right around this area right here. We're fairly close to it now, and then I would expect this to eventually fall to the downside. If this breaks this consolidation range and starts to trade back up into here, you know, I believe this low down here is going to get taken out at 106.40. I think is going to get ran, but it's going to be a little more unclear to me on what UJ wants to do if it runs back through this consolidation level. So that's where I would tolerate a run back up to this 109 level here, and then fall over. But I'd like to see, if this thing is going to remain bearish, I'd like to see this level defended and a push lower off of this range in here. That's sort of what I was hoping, and I was kind of hoping that this range in here, that Wednesday's candle would have been the high on the week, and we would have seen price either consolidate or start to run lower. But as you can see, we're pushing up fairly hard here going into the early London Open sessions. So, okay, that is, and same with Australian dollar. We had a nice up day on Australian dollar. All the other pairs were running sideways. US CAD was running lower. Australian dollar, and again, not a huge day, but if you are an avid Australian dollar trader, you know that the ADR for Aussie is typically between 40 and 60 pips pretty much. You don't usually get massive range days on Aussie, and today was true to form. So you can see they're continuing higher now, and again, this pair, as the US dollar is pushing higher, this pair should be pushing lower, right? So you saw them on Tuesday here. They basically consolidated, running all the stops to the upside and then shooting it down quick, running the stops on the low side, picking up all the longs underneath here, sweeping the stops, and then they haven't looked back since. So this, and I wasn't watching this market, I'm not a huge Aussie trader, that was your key to get long in this market, in my opinion. They're probably going to run out this high, and ultimately I'd be looking for them to get up to 72.10 long term, a couple hundred pips away. Lots of opportunity on this guy here, but I'm not interested in taking a trade on this yet until the US dollar starts to fall in line with overall, the Aussie dollar and the US dollar start to fall in line with overall time frame, being lower price on US dollar and then a continuation higher on Aussie. But right now Aussie's pushing up, so it's doing something that, you know, technically it should be going down as US dollar is going up. As you can see, they're both going up right now. So until that changes and we start getting back in sync, I'm not trading the Aussie dollar until then. But that being said, if you are an Aussie trader and you like it, depending on where you want to go in, there is a chance they could. I do see this here. They've got a couple of relatively equal lows under here. They could swing back down and sweep underneath those guys right there. I'll put it on the chart just because. But this could be an option. They could shoot it down quickly as that US dollar is pushing higher, and then regather some long positions and then run back up. That would be something I would look out for, and I think I'll extend this out just to see potentially if that does happen. And that's about it for Forex, folks. I have those are my ideas anyway. I'm really only going to be focusing on Euro and cable if we can get a decent run down into here on cable. Everything else is just sort of stuff to keep you occupied while you're waiting for your main trades to set up. And that's it for Forex. Gold I wanted to talk about quickly. I have this level on my chart here, and I was concerned that we weren't going to get it. And as we created this not all-time high, this high that hasn't been seen for 6 years on gold, and we've retraced quite steeply off of that. I'm looking for them to run down into this area here. And whether or not that's the low, I don't know, but I was a little concerned that maybe this candle here wasn't going to give it to us yesterday. I was watching gold, and again, consolidating price for the day. I'm looking for them to expand lower now on gold. Could they run lower? Absolutely. If we do see that expansion higher on the US dollar, past that range I was talking about, then we'll probably see them come back down into this range under here, and potentially run back into this green area in here. So I'll be looking to see some hesitation on the part of gold in this area. If we get that, then we can look at getting long, and I mean, however long you want to hold out for, it's a swing trade. My ultimate target is 1500 on gold, as US dollar is dropping, but as to where the entry is going to be, I'm expecting them to run these two lows under here going into tomorrow. And if it wants to stabilize, gain some support at that level, great. But I'm going to wait for confirmation before I do that, because this thing could fall off in a very big hurry and stop you out. So just be careful on that one. That's my ideas going forward. I am long and bullish on gold, short term, or sorry, longer term, but short term, I'm thinking it's either going to come down to here, or if we lose that area, it'll come down into here. So it's a pretty big margin of error between those two. So I'm going to elect to wait. And by waiting, what could happen is I could miss the exact low. Maybe it comes right down into here, right in my area that I'm looking for, reject, and then run higher. Well, if that's the case, then I'll just buy in somewhere up in here when it retests it. But that I'm okay with that. Lastly and finally, I'm going to wrap this up here and just talk about oil very quickly. We shot above these old highs in here on Wednesday, created a high and rejected. Now, I don't know, we've got some OPEC stuff coming up. There's a lot of stuff on oil. I hope we see a move back down to 54. That's what I'm looking for. But they could very easily, if we get above the high from yesterday, so this is a very easy call. If we get above the high from Wednesday, so this 59.90, if we start trading up to 60 level, I would probably elect to look at them wanting to. Now you can see here, the low on this candle here came in at 60.02. The high on this candle here again came in at, come up on my chart, 59.90. So there's about a 10-cent range right in here where I'm interested to see what they want to do. We could shoot above it and then reject. If we don't get above $60, then we're probably going to see prices, this being the high, and they're just basically turtle souping, running the stops, and then rejecting quickly. I would have thought personally that they would have rejected a lot quicker. But if we fail to get above that high, I think we're going to see lower lows. And then the next one is that 60 level. It's got to break that 60 level if it's going to continue higher. And if it does, then we can obviously target these highs in here and potentially even this high in here if they really want to get back up into it. But so far, we've had a nice $8 or so push north. I'd like to see them come back down and rebalance off of this level here. And I'm not 100% positive and super bullish that we're going to see this range up in here. Again, my reasoning behind this is, without having to get too in-depth into the geopolitical status of the global energy supply, but we still have those trade wars going on with U.S. and China. I just saw a note from one of the U.S. secretaries saying that they're about 90% completed in these trade talks. So if that's the case, great. Maybe they're anticipating on those trade deals being negotiated, and it's going to get back to business as usual, and they're already pricing that in. Certainly a possibility. However, what happens if they delay it for another week, or say no, deal's off, or which I doubt it. They will make a deal. We know they will make a deal because these tariffs and these trade wars, it's bad for business. But what if they decide to run these stops and then jam this thing down, $5, while they're still deliberating on the final details of the trade wars and the negotiations, only for them to come out, in a week's time or something and say, yeah, we came to a deal. We finally reached a decision. Let's get back to business as usual, and then price shoots sky high again. Certainly a possibility. As far as I'm concerned, my target to the downside was for the most part reached. This was my target right down here. We got that here. Was there some further area below these lows here that I was looking at? Yes. Does it have to go down there? Well, this is pretty bullish. And now we're starting to get above this market structure in here, this price structure in here. Is the likelihood that it's going to come all the way back down here realistic? I don't think so. I think we're too far gone now. So my eye goes back to this, the highs of these old consolidations, and a return back down. Again, what I'd like to see is turtle soup high to a lower push to finish off the week. Next week, and into the following week, then we see them tag off of this level down here, and then a push higher eventually. Is that going to pan out exactly like that? Probably not. Probably not. But if we start trading above $60, I'm going to be long, and I'm going to be targeting up here. If we fail to get above yesterday's high or that $60, if it goes up and then rejects at that 60, plus or minus 5 cents, then I think we'll be targeting down here. So that is my 2 cents on oil, gold, UJ, Aussie, CAD, Euro GBP, cable, Euro USD, and US dollar. So I hope that does it for you guys, and I hope that offered a little bit of insight as to the rest of the week's market activity. And hopefully that you saw a little bit of value of that. If you do like what you see, could you do me a favor and just go ahead and hit the like button, leave a comment, say great stuff, or man, you're crazy, it's never going to do that. All is good. Constructive criticism would be better, and I would really appreciate that, guys. And other than that, I will catch all the members into the chat room tomorrow, and we will hopefully all have a great day of trading going into Thursday. Good luck, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.